Что вы задумали? Вы против? Мгм.
Dear friends, glad to meet you all on Feygin Live. It's Wednesday, July 13th, 3 minutes past 10 Kiev time, and we're starting a new stream. Day 140 with Olexiy Arestovych. Glad to see you. Olexiy, good evening, everybody. 150,000 watching us, 23,000 left their likes. As always, I ask everybody who's watching to subscribe. Do not forget to click that bell and click subscribe. And subscribe to Alexei's channel, to Feygin Live, and also if you are watching that in English, please do not forget to subscribe to the privateer station. So, we had a little break yesterday, and there are some news over the last couple of days. Let's give a word to Olexiy and go over the map and see what changed, how everything moves. Where is consciousness with these people? 150,000 are watching us, 23,000 left their likes. Let's give them some time, let's give them 5 minutes. I will not be answering any questions until each of them leaves a like. Oh, look at that, already got 50,000 likes. See, I think we need to turn to them, guys. Our personal request to you, dear friends, please click that like button. And the difference between the ones who liked and the ones who watched will understand how many people are watching us in Kremlin and from Russian special services. Because they likely can watch us but cannot leave any like, of course. So let's look at the map. The enemy is still there. We are fending them off near Kazachia, near Dementievka. That did not quite work out with them. They were kicked back and thrown back to their original positions from Russian Tishki, from Cernovaya to the south. There are local tactical fights. The only bad thing there, really bad, is shelling of Kharkov that they continue, and that causes more damage to a very beautiful city, not only in Ukraine but in the world. And there'll be a point for us when we'll ask for that. Let's look at Mazanovka, that's Izium Slavyansk area. There is a forest territory, and they try to move within that forest. It doesn't quite work for them. They try to push beyond Bogorodishne. They even pushed for several hundred meters, several hundred yards. On the north, it's about 11 and 12 on this map. So the red arrow is showing from Bogorodishne and Svetogorsk. But they're not even trying to surround us there, they're just pushing us out, but still cannot do that. The main intrigue is still to the right, at about 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. from Siversk down south to Krasnogora. General direction is to Grigorievka and Serebrenka, and they're trying to get to the river to create certain conditions that they can cross Siversky Donets to reach Siversk, which is right now on this map at about 12. They're still pretty far away from that, but that's the general goal. They, of course, have a group in the north. That group is waiting till they have any success on the east, near Siversk. Now let's look deeper down south from Belogorovka to Vasilievka, the road Bakhmut-Lysychansk. And they're trying to get to Solidar, which right now on this map is a bit north, almost 12, like 11:30. They're also trying to get to Bakhmut Svetlodarsk, M03 road. They're trying to push to the west, trying to cut us off near Sinigoria and reach the southern tips of Bakhmut. It doesn't quite work for them, but they continue the tactical pressure, similar to what they did back in Lysychansk and Severodonetsk. It may scare some people that the same tactics may bring same success, but let's remember how much did they pay for that, and also let's remember the fact that we did not have HIMARS when they were attacking Lysychansk. So we'll get to that point. From Verkhnyotorets, they're trying to push to New York. We actually have New York in Ukraine, and Nelipovka, and it is right in the middle of this map. You see the little red protrusion and little down south from the center, and there are 3 red arrows. The top one is pointing towards New York. So they're trying to advance there. It's tactical, it's not big. Marinka, Ugledar, that's another tactical push. There is some tactical skirmish there, last 24 hours. And of course, good news from Kherson, where we continue firing, destroying the reinforcements, destroying supply routes. So speaking of HIMARS, in the last 24 hours, we Leninsk, Donetsk, Novokakhovka, Kiev region, another factory. So over 50 strikes done in the last 7 days. Each of them had a result, not a single miss. Everywhere there was continuous detonation. Last day they also got their anti-air missiles depot destroyed in Lugansk. They took our anti-air detachment positions, and they put the whole brigade there with ammo and everything. So we hit them so successfully that that's one of the examples when the explosion, the continuous detonation, lasts for a while and goes from a mile to 3 miles radius. We intercepted some of their messages. Their condition there is close to panic, huge losses, and they don't know what to do with it. I can quote some losses that they suffered there. They already were in the open sources. From 1st to 10th of July, Donetsk and Lugansk medical services received about 500 wounded. That's just Lugansk and Donetsk. Over 100 are Russian soldiers. 300 are from Donetsk and Lugansk, and a smaller portion from private units. And that's just what we could trace in these 2 little towns. It doesn't count FSB, it doesn't count the guys who lost, who completely disappeared, were lost during the attack. I would suspect at least they have the same amount of troops left on the field, because they cannot evacuate them. So double that number by 2, and that's just 10 days. And within Lugansk and Kherson. Lugansk and Donetsk, sorry. So in Izum, there are about 50 battle tactical groups. 700 multiplied by 50, that's from losses of one tactical group. And we've been hitting them throughout the whole front. So that is a huge number of losses. About 1,000 people in 10 days. After having lost about a third of their numbers, this group will not be able to continue their tasks successfully. So, also if they're planning or doing any active storming activity, in about 10, maybe 20 days, this group will completely lose its battle worthiness. We'll show a picture that we had about the work of HIMARS. That's the picture. Before and after. What do these red dots mean? So red dots is the places, locations where we where Russian artillery was hitting us. So red dots on the upper map indicate the hits by Russian artillery on the Ukraine territory of Ukrainian troops. After the HIMARS started working, you can see the bottom picture. This is the difference in 4 days. Again, this is the weapon that is battle-changing, war-changing weapon. Even those Russians who do not support Ukraine, who support the war, you have been losing a lot of money after 2008. After the war in Georgia, Putin's regime decided to remake their military. So they were taking a lot of taxes and a lot of other payments from you to refit their army. Now, ask yourself a question. How much is this instrument that Russian army is worth if 10 machines which arrived to the front changed the picture to such a degree? 10 machines should not be able to affect that war to that level. Only maybe if it's a Death Star from Star Wars. But otherwise, 10 machines, 10 usual missile machines change the front line that bad. That means that whatever you build has very weak military warfighting capability, and your current government wasted so much money on it. Do you want to say that Arestovych is exaggerating? I have a counter-argument for you. That in Russia, the head of defense production is being fired. He received a Hero of Russia by Putin, according to some data, and he is one of the closest people to your dear leader. So now he's being fired, and that fact is Putin's gauging of your military political management. Where did the money go and the effectiveness of what they built? Over 10,000 killed in the last 10 days. At least 20,000 destroyed in Lugansk and Donetsk republics. We're getting close to 100,000 people dead in Slavyansk and Kramatorsk. Especially if that attempt will continue for a while. For what? What's the goal? What are you fighting for? To show that you captured these 2 towns? Maybe? I don't think you will, but you'll still lose these people. And Russian government polling center, actually published an interesting research that says interesting polling data that Russians do not want to give a cent to support military activity. That is actual vote of lack of support to Putin's government and his military. So that's what I was always saying, that people in Russia can make right conclusions, even the ones who believed in Putin's propaganda. You have enough time now and enough results to see the results of that venture that Putin dragged you into. And it appears that Putin started to get a little too nervous. He did state today in one of his statements that Grandpa is upset. He says that if you'll continue advancing in the south, we'll show you something that you haven't seen. What haven't we seen, Mr. Putin, during these 5 months of war? You've thrown everything at us. Okay, let's pull that data. This is an interesting research that Olexiy mentions. Most Russians saying that they will not give a ruble to support Russian army. Over 50% continue to support the war with Ukraine. However, most of Russian citizens refuse to support Russian military with any financials. So that's an interesting result you can read between the lines. Research was based on 2,000 respondents in different regions. Despite the generally big support of military activity, only 8% said that they can give a portion of their salary to support Russian army. Over 50% said they are not going to give a single cent. 55% said that war is useless. 20% said that success in war will bring them satisfaction and peace. The war support fell by 10 to 12%, so every seventh started thinking that this war may not lead to where they want. 39% reported that their income has decreased. 12% lost their job. Every fourth stopped communicating with their relatives and friends. They're suffering from anxiety, depression, and bad mood. And earlier, they also published a closed research that the fall of support of that special operation or Ukraine war is going down by 30%. So, in light of that, Moscow is publicly not disclosing the losses they suffered in the last 10 days, especially since you started using HIMARS. It is not a forefront of discussion in Russia. They're not bringing it up and saying, look, 500 people in hospitals, at least that amount also is dead. So that whole anxiety is based, that they're seeing on the research, is based on the length of this engagement, 5 months. It is not a blitzkrieg. Regardless of how you look at that, 5 months is a long time. And second, why are we suffering? Prices are growing. Artificial rate of exchange with currency and sanctions and other limits they're facing. So many of them start asking that question, how long will it continue? Even if you take the ones who used to scream that we'll win, Ukrainians will slave for Russia. So how long will it continue? That's the question that has to arise in the head of even the most idiotic citizen over there. 5 months, 10 months, 15 months? We're asking that rhetorically, but there gotta be some precursors to their next thinking step. You're the, Aperon thinking school of thought and rhetoric, so please elaborate. How would their logic work when they see the rise of prices, limits of freedom, still that war? So what happens? The problem is that, as I see it, is that Russian society started asking questions of himself. The power refuses or does not want to give answers. And then the questions come, okay, what is behind that? What is another thing that's interesting to ask is, why were these polls conducted? Oh, you mean why? In general, they're doing it. That's their usual modus operandi. They're polling their population. So why do you think they're doing it? Probably checking if they want to do a mobilization or not. And they try looking for a way to radically solve the Ukrainian problem. Because if 10 HIMARS did that with their troops, what would 20 or 30 HIMARS do? Which we will have eventually. Today there was a piece of data I cannot neither support nor deny, but I'll just voice it, that we are going to get missiles that fly 300 miles far. So let's see, where can they get? Can you imagine the consequences of that? Yep, that's a very good question. I had a conversation with Mark Lipovetsky just a couple hours ago. He says that it is very important that every Russian should be touched by this war. They need to feel the problem, because the degree of that touch, it is in direct proportion to their reaction to it. Top level is total mobilization. It's like when every Russian would have to face a question to start hiding or to go fight and die in the war. Or a decreased version, give some money to the war. And they don't even want to do that. So that's sort of a scale that causes different reactions. Why do we need that? The question is, what place in this hierarchy? So if they announce the full mobilization, they are risking the reaction that would say, no, we're not going to go die there. Let's better kill Putin, it's cheaper. Other option is, that old Russian joke about the drunkard who's getting to his family and telling, vodka is more expensive. So they're saying, well, you will drink less. He says, no, idiots, you'll eat less. So, Mark, this is already being reflected in the polls. There are three main categories. I support negotiations, I'm not sure, and I'm confused. The current grading of war by Russian society basically indicates that they do not want to even support the war on a lower level in terms of money. So there is no room for escalation. I'm saying that it's not going to be worse than it has been before. Right now, they have a few divisions on the borders with Ukraine. 80th Armored Infantry, 140th. 6th is in Belgorod. This is like by tens of times weaker than what attacked us on the 24th. And we're way better prepared now. We already have Western arms. We got some defense lines. We got more people mobilized and trained. So right now, Russian army is basically a half-decayed corpse that is being dragged to the middle of the room. Putin is still proud of his actions. He's still proud of his tits on a horse. And he thinks he is still somewhat of a leader. Well, let's see what they do on the 15th. I think they'll take some internal measures. They'll shuffle some of their government, figure out some economic measures, perhaps ask more to be more stoic from the Russian citizens. We got some news on the weaponry. We want to bring it up on the screen. This is a list of different armaments that Germany is planning to give. 53,000 Zenith ammo pieces, 8 mobile Teplovision, heat vision radio location systems, 3 self-propelled howitzers, 4,000 shots to Zenith tank ammo, 10 autonomous water drones, 14 pools, engineering equipment units, 43 Intel drones, 10 armed vehicles, 7 and 8 devices to defend from Russian drones and interference, 4 mobile remote-controlled minesweepers, 65 fridges for medical supplies, 1 desactivation point for transport, 53 M113 armored vehicles, 30 Zenith tanks Gepard, including 6,000 Zenith ammo shells, system for anti-air defense Iris-T SLM, radio location Cobra system for tracking artillery, 80 trucks, 3 reactive systems HIMARS with ammo, 100,000 medical kits, and 3 armored evacuation vehicles. So we definitely need armored vehicles. That's the thing. In order to advance, in order to successfully move the troops near the front line, we do need that. We are good with artillery. We're good with hitting the artillery and luring them in the proper places where we can destroy them at a speed of 500 per week. And that's just 2 directions. We have not talked about Kherson. We have not talked about Kryvyi Rog. So everything is following our strategic concept. Russian leadership and Russian people started to suspect that all the plans that they were being told about by Russian leadership is really poorly connecting with the Putin's phrase, "we haven't started yet." So if you haven't started, is that your plan? Or what is it? And very soon, dear Russians will understand that the story does smell pretty bad. Because it does not have an end. Actually, it does have an end. It'll be a horrible end for them. Some of their leaders already see that. And I'm thinking that on the 15th, they'll throw a good social economic bone to the populace. They'll move some people in the government. But Mark, you as a specialist in Russia, what will they say during the interview about the overall situation? This is a difficult question. At first, they will play and probably put all kind of stuff, like barrier talks. I can make friends out of enemies, enemies out of friends. And they'll start shuffling stuff around, probably saying nonsense. They can lie and do all that for a brief period of time. After that, they'll switch to semi-hysterical phase. It'll be shorter than the shuffling, but it will probably point that they're withdrawing to save peaceful citizens because Nazis like Arestovych is out there killing kids and citizens, civilians, and military, and he's not gay anymore that they were claiming you are. They'll say that you're some mass murdering subject on the front. And after that, they'll probably fall apart. Some of them will start talking about changes in the government, others will start talking about changes in the military. So there would be some carnival kind of thing happening. And after that, I don't know what's going to happen. There'll be some sort of collapse. And after that, they'll probably start accusing each other. They'll start accusing that Lugansk and Donetsk armies are fighting bad. They will be accusing Russia of poor support. So that's the brief scenario of what will happen with you, dear Russian citizens, between now and November. And your gestures of goodwill on the front will, I suspect, continue growing en masse by withdrawing. And I think Russian government realized they lost. And the measures they're taking measures to rearrange Russia after war, Russia that lost after war. There are some people who support that the fact that they maybe will keep Lugansk and Donetsk regions, and they can maybe negotiate over that. And today's conversation in Turkey that they had with some Western representatives show that they possibly can come to some agreement with the West. This is basically a second attempt. Let's solve it. Let's do something. But I predict that this will not be solved by Ukraine. This will not be negotiated by Ukraine. We'll blow them out like a hurricane. It is an old phrase I don't like. I dread bringing it, but basically it's a train on fire that's going into abyss. And it's still going. And I'm very curious to see the process of sobering in Russia, how it will go. Because soldiers on the battlefield, they don't need explanations. Based on the intercepts we got, they realize that the war is lost. Citizens start to understand, gauging the situation in the fridge, in the bank, general, and the scary question, where is it all moving? If that's the price we paid for 5 months and we have no success, and they were lying to us about the special operation, what will happen if it'll continue for another half a year or a year? What will happen with our wallet and our fridge and everything? And it'll be interesting to see their reaction. What happens if we start retaking our territories back? Did you know they started reinforcing Antonov Bridge? They started putting the fortifications around it. So they're basically protecting the location that they think Ukraine will recapture. So in essence, they're already planning that Ukraine will get there. But that bridge, As I predict, HIMARS can actually destroy it in about a minute, right? Different things may happen. But they do need it to withdraw. They already put the mines there, of course, but they will need the bridge to withdraw from their current location and on the other bank. I am sure 90% they already left Kherson in their mind. Well, we need to see the public signs of that soon. Alongside the attempts to negotiate and stop it, they might want to offer something in return, that they keep Lugansk and Donetsk regions, and offer something that we'll cease advancing, even though we will seize that, so you can maybe let us keep what we captured. Look, Lugansk, we got ammo depot, Chernobyevka another depot, Kherson another one, Gorlovka another one, and that's all HIMARS, right? That's HIMARS, that's today. Night is not even here. We usually shoot more during the night. We'll know more in the morning. So, that's coming. I think this is the beginning of an end for the story. Look, official faces from Kiev declared today, I think Kuleba or Podolyak, somebody said that Moscow may have plans to liquidate Lukashenko. I have not heard, but this is one of the scenarios that we discussed many times. So let's not rely on any of them actually making that statement. So if that happens, and they have no choice, what if they need to start advancement from the north, just to distract or do something? Maybe stop HIMARS resupply. What's the probability in your mind for Lukashenko's liquidation? Let's get rid of him, says Putin, and puts his vice FSB person to manage Belarus. I can imagine Lukashenko watching our show tonight and freaking out. How can they do it? Dear Lukashenko, I should tell that he should not be worried. The country where a dictator was ruling for 20 plus years and just got assassinated, this is a very bad subject for management. There'll be a big issue in terms of managing, militarily, economically. It is a really, really difficult story that doesn't have a capacity to invade anything. The only concern would be Russian troops, if they are there, to invade from that side. But they need about 10 to 15,000 to do that. They only have now some support troops. They can kill perhaps some of Belarus people to revenge that situation, but as a revenge. But they don't really have a good move up north. And I want to say that Belarus special services are pretty successful in eliminating and figuring out Russian special services and getting rid of them on the Belarus territory. So that kind of a special services war is already going there. So they're working on the self-defense mode. So do you think Lukashenko will continue showing that he is supporting Putin or not? I think he will continue for as long as it's needed. He'll be showing the training, the mobilization efforts, but did you know they recently did a poll where 90% refused to arrive to the military drafting place, and the remaining 10% probably just didn't pick up. So that's the situation in Belarus. Because if they said, and I think that's one of the ways they reported it too, because if they said that the whole 100% refused to show, that would have been a worse story. So, of course, Mark, we'll hear that somebody already captured a village, surrounded a small town, but this is basically an inertia of the Finnish. I don't see any successes happening for the Russian side, and Ukraine side is just starting. 406 people are watching us, 160,000 likes, a quarter, over a quarter. We would want more, but okay, good effort, thank you. Let's discuss Biden's visit to the Middle East. to conclude. To Israel? He's already there. Yeah, he's in Israel. Is any reason for his visit to Kiev? I don't know, and they probably will never disclose, even if he decides to stop here. What's important here is the probability of supporting Ukraine from Israel and the countries of Persian Gulf that he is visiting. Situation is changing there related to the Israeli government. And of course, Biden is there for other reasons. To check the countries do not run to China and India. But actually, one of the goals is looking for additional support for Ukraine. And I suspect even that task will be solved successfully. So even, despite of how many other weapons are being sent here, Russian guns are still playing, old Soviet guns are still playing a big role in our artillery. And Israel actually has quite a bit of that. They have a bunch of old Soviet weaponry, and they can probably share a number of them. And that will allow us to develop a big fist that will be able to punch the invaders out of our territory. And the better equipped it is, the easier it will be to push Russian troops out of Ukraine. There is another good, important goal there. Yeah, oil, right. Oil is probably another target for his visit, and likely to convince Saudi Arabia to agree on a certain corridor, price-wise. On the preliminary information, I heard even Chinese supported that corridor, the price range. Preliminary data also that I saw that Saudi Arabia also supported decreasing the price temporarily. So it doesn't take too much of an effort, more of an organizational issue. We can talk about that separately with Krutichin, another guy deeper in economy. All right, so on the 38th minute, let's conclude this cast. We're meeting tomorrow, right? There are no changes? Yes. Also, McFaul-Yermak Commission is sending a message that in Europe, starting 18th, they're starting to discuss the 7th set of sanctions. We never knew when are they starting, but now we have a confirmation. So tomorrow, I'm sorry I cannot, by the way. I'll be a bit busy in one hot zone, but on Friday I'll be back. So Thursday we're skipping, and we're targeting Friday and Saturday, right? Okay, so we'll do something else on Thursday. We've got a different lineup. All right, dear friends, another reminder for 412,000 people. Subscribe to our channels. If you are watching that in English, subscribe to the Privateer station. We continue selling our show merchandise. The links are in the description. And it's mostly t-shirts, some logos and stickers. We need to regulate a few things so we can start selling it in Ukraine as well. People are asking us. It is not easy. Logistics is pretty difficult in times of war, but we'll figure it out. And we also continue to accumulate more funds from the open sea to dedicate them to people who lost their limbs, lives, and relatives. So we're trying to do that as much as we can. It's not too big of an effort, but at least we're trying to do the best we can under circumstance. Thank you, Olexiy. We'll continue our tagging on Friday. Everybody, see you. See you, Olexiy. Good luck. Thank you, viewers. Bye, Mark. See you later.